What's going on, guys? We're at the fifth wheel today, and the point of this video is to just show you some of the minor things that you can expect when owning a fifth wheel or a travel trailer or really any RV, since every time you pull it down the road the conditions inside the RV are constantly changing. Anyways, what I'm going to do is point out minor things that you should be able to fix yourself, things you don't need to take it to the dealership for, and things that if you see, especially on a new one, you should get addressed. So as you can see right here, this trim is actually coming down slightly. I don't know if you can see that. And I can simply take it and tack it back up there. So that's something I'm going to need to do, and that's happened in a couple areas. It's really only happening on this side, but that really just occurs over time when the wood either expands or contracts slightly and the fifth wheel's moving. Different scenarios that can just cause the tacks to pull out slightly. I was actually thinking about replacing all of that trim with a better piece of molding to go across the top, but I'll probably just use some liquid nails or even some small tacks to hold this in place. And you can see where it's tacked in right here, and it's just missing a tack right here, and that's why it's coming down like that. Now, something you do want to pay close attention to is the seal on your slide here. Something that a lot of people miss when they're checking their seals is they look to make sure there's no water, but what you want to do is you want to reach your hand under here, and you want to feel for any types of gaps that could prevent the bottom seal here from making contact with the floor. Another way you can tell is if you look real low, you can see if any light's coming in if it's a bright day. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Another thing you want to pay close attention to are going to be your seals on the side here. You want to make sure that your slide, when it's out, is sitting as flush as possible against this wall. There's a seal on the inside of this trim right here that needs to press up against this wall when it's out. And that's going to be something that's going to prevent water or any type of moisture from leaking in between the wall and the slide itself. That's something you want to pay close attention to. Also, if you have an RV with, let's say, a vinyl to carpet transition, if you have carpet here along your slides, you want to pay attention to a couple things. First of all, you want to feel around here if it's rained recently and look for any type of signs of water damage. And this is something you can do on new or used RVs. You can pull this carpet up sometimes, you can look at the mechanism under here, and just pay close attention for any signs of liquid or moisture damage across this area. Oftentimes what happens is it rains, moisture comes down the back side of this and it settles on the carpet. And a good sign of a bad seal or a problem that could result in some type of wood damage or rot would be if this area is wet. So pay close attention to this corner as well as that corner over there on the slide outs. And you can look for water damage or any type of water spots on either side. Now, if it hasn't rained, but you still want to make sure, oftentimes what you can do is take a water hose from the outside or have the dealer pull it up to a place where you can spray it with water and just spray on the outside close to all your seals, then go inside to see if you feel any water that comes in. Keep in mind though, if you use a really high pressure hose or a really high pressure nozzle, it's not really going to be fair because you can force water in to any of these units. That's something that I would pay close attention to. Something I'm not too concerned about is what you see right here. So a little bit of this trim is backing out slightly. This is something that's extremely easy to fix, and again, it's just how it was tacked down. It's just this little edge right here. I could go at this with a small little tack or a small little screw, just going slightly to this piece of wood that makes up the trim here, and that part will be fixed. If you see something like this, if the dealership can fix it right away, you know, you may want them to, but if you've already brought your RV home and you're considering bringing it back for this or that little piece of trim at the top, definitely recommend just do the repair yourself. If you feel completely incapable of doing that repair, call a neighbor, call a friend, call somebody who you think can do that repair so you don't have to worry about, you know, dropping it off at an RV dealership for potentially weeks just to get something like that fixed. Now, this next one's a little iffy on whether you should try to do it yourself or take it back to the dealership, depending on your level of expertise with the plumbing system as well as PEX connectors and the water pump. Basically, when we turn our water on right now, it's doing this little spurt and sputter thing where we don't have constant water flow. Now, it's fine in the bathroom, but over here near the sink area, it's been doing this for a short period of time. Generally, it fixes itself after a while, but what this tells me is that there's air in the line. Now I've purged the line already, but it's still doing this, so I'm going to keep a close eye on it and see if it gets any worse, and then I'll take a look at the plumbing system and see if it's something I can fix myself, which I probably can. Now if you have a propane electric refrigerator like we do, this is an area a lot of people think they may have a broken or damaged appliance when in fact they don't. So when you turn your refrigerator or freezer on and you simply open the door and there's a couple buttons at the top, one of them is an on-off button, then you can switch it from LP or liquid propane to electric or to automatic. We usually keep ours on automatic, but you'll notice that it might take hours upon hours to actually cool down to a temperature that you think is appropriate for actually putting food inside. Now the challenge is that these types of refrigerators, because of how they function, take an extraordinary amount of time to cool. Sometimes it's anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, sometimes it's anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. And if the coach isn't perfectly level or as close to level as possible, it can even create problems to where it won't cool the way it should. Regardless of whether you have it set on electric or whether you have it set on liquid propane, don't expect any real consistency out of how these refrigerators cool. It takes a long time to get one of these down, and as you can see, ours is currently at 40 degrees, but to get down to 40 degrees on this particular trip it took almost 12 hours. It takes a long time to get the system to work the way it should. Now we really like this type of fridge because we can run off propane right now. It's not powered off of our generator, so it allows us to boondock a little longer without having to worry about our generator running out of fuel, and we can just run it off of the propane, which essentially will last almost forever. Next item on the list is the stove. Now just because you try to turn on your stove and you start cranking it and nothing happens doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong. Of course, first check to make sure your propane's turned on outside, but if your propane's on, what you're going to want to do is put it on high or start and let it run for a little while, and then try to start it maybe 10 or 15 seconds later and just continuously try to start it, because in fifth wheels and travel trailers and pretty much any type of RV, when you turn the propane on, there's going to be a delay that the air from the system has to purge before the fuel starts coming through, and it can take anywhere from usually 10 to 30 seconds for it to start getting into the system enough to where you can start it. Now with many RVs you're going to have a lot of cabinets, and the cabinetry in most RVs is actually pretty good. It's not necessarily what you would consider the cheapest type of cabinetry out there. They do a pretty good job with most new RVs of putting decent cabinetry in. But you also have to remember that when you're driving and pulling one of these travel trailers or fifth wheels, you're putting a lot of stress on components that are designed to be rigid. So you usually are going to have an I-beam frame, and everything inside, though, is tacked together and nailed together in a very rigid platform, like cabinet doors and cabinetry itself. So some of that stuff occasionally is forced to flex slightly. And when that happens and you go up to a cabinet and you try to open it, or it doesn't open or close as smoothly as you'd like, oftentimes that's because a slight shift has occurred and your pulls and your catches just aren't lining up the way that they should. So this isn't something you need to take your coach back to an RV dealership to have repaired. This is something you should be able to do yourself. Typically, you just have to remove a couple of screws, reposition where the catch is, and then put the screws back on. So on a cabinet like this, where you'll have a catch right here, and the other piece of hardware is right here, if you need to make an adjustment, you can generally unscrew this, move this slightly up or down, or do the same here, and just screw it back in. And once you screw it back in, it should work as good as new. Now when it comes to your AC, this is going to be something you want to pay close attention to on your new unit. First of all, our AC unit is underneath that baffle I made. It's got two pieces of ducting, one that runs this way and one that runs that way. The one that runs that way runs from the AC up to the front of the coach all the way to the master bedroom, and the one that runs this way runs essentially to the back of the living room. So as you can see, I have three actual vents that come out here. I have one in front there, and then there's more that go up. What you want to understand is how this system works. First of all, these two vents here I can position pretty much any way I want, and the airflow is going to be pretty consistent. That vent right there, however, if I turn that vent and I point the air that way, what's going to happen is you're going to have very, very little air coming out. The reason for that is the ducting is like a rectangular piece of tube that just runs all the way across this section right here. So that being closest to the AC has the most air pressure coming out. With it pointed in this direction coming towards me, it's going to perform better with airflow because the air can simply follow the path of least resistance and come out this way. But if I turn that specific duct around, because it has the highest airflow, the air is just going to pass directly over it and it's not going to blow hardly any air out in that direction. So if you run into a scenario where you have these vents turned towards your AC unit, they're going to blow less air. The best way to configure your vents in the back side of your ducted system is to have the air actually work with the vent, so the air is going to be blowing in this direction and you'll have your better airflow, it'll work more efficiently, and you'll get more air coming out of the system. And that's the exact same for the vents going that way. So if I have the vents pointed that direction, then the air is going to come out a lot easier. If I turn any of those vents and I point them this way, then of course the air is going to be traveling this way through the ducting, and then it's going to have to essentially make a return to try to come out this way, and it's not going to work very well. So you want to pay close attention to that, especially if you have an RV with only one AC unit. So we're fortunate that our bedroom has a second AC unit, and we usually close off the vents in that specific space simply because it allows this unit to work more efficiently out here and drive more air into the main body of the RV. Now, one thing you do want to pay close attention to is that all your light switches work, that when you turn your light switches on, the lights inside the coach come on and off correctly. If you see any flickering, or if you see any type of issue to where something's delayed or doesn't come on right away, oftentimes that can mean there's a pinched wire. So in many cases, when they run the wiring through this coach, the wire could come down slightly while they're hooking it up to a fixture. Then when they screw the fixture in, they pinch the wire between the top base mount of the fixture and whatever the sealing surface is. So that can be problematic. You can pinch a wire, you can cause a short or a ground, which can burn up a system, cause electrical problems, and that's something you definitely want to go through any new coach and check. Turn on all the lights, turn them off, turn them on, just make sure that the switches are working, make sure your lights come instantly on. You know, you can even go through and slightly shake some things, and if you see any type of flickering, that usually is going to mean that there's some type of an electrical issue. That is something you're going to want to have fixed immediately. If you're good with doing basic electrical repair, this might be something you can do yourself. But just remember, anytime you take your RV to the dealership, you're looking at it being there for a significant amount of time. And if it's something you feel you could have done yourself, you should probably do it yourself, because once your RV is at the dealership, the likelihood that you'll be able to get it out early is going to be difficult. A, it might be blocked in. B, they might have pulled a part out and they're waiting for a new part to come in. Or C, they may just not let you take it out until it's fixed, simply because they don't want the liability of you taking it out and them saying that, you know, the last people who touched it was them. So I just want you to keep all of that in mind. I'm going to do a follow-up video to this pretty soon, talking about the outside of the RV and some of the things you should look for there. But I hope from an interior perspective this has helped you a little bit, giving you some things to look out for, some things that you should and shouldn't really have to worry about, and more importantly, giving you a little bit of peace of mind that, you know what, don't fret the small stuff. If you see little areas like trim coming down, that's stuff you can fix yourself. That's stuff that you don't need to worry about. And quite frankly, even though, yeah, you could easily categorize those types of problems as quality control issues out of the factory, many of those things are just going to happen because you're pulling a house down the street. And things are going to flex. This cabin's going to move and shift slightly, and little parts, little tacks, those things will come out. Sure, there could have been ways that the manufacturer could have attached them more securely so that wouldn't happen, but the reality behind it is, those are one of those things that you could even see happen in your own home that's not moving. There's a lot of times that trim and things like that will start to pop off, or a tack might come loose in your own house, and you know you're not pulling your house behind a car. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's been a little bit informative for you. If it has, I'd appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, everyone.